Today's chat is brought to you by the support of all our Twitch subscribers. Through the patronage you provide the Focus Fire chat team through the Twitch platform, we are able to provide you with the weekly podcast as well as the website and other aspects of Focus Fire chat. If you have any interest in becoming a subscriber of the FFC and gaining access to some exclusive features over in the Discord server, please be sure to visit our Twitch account and click on the subscribe button. If you're an Amazon Prime member, remember that you do have a free subscription to Twitch every month that can be used for this. And for those of you who are already subscribers, thank you again for your generosity. You may have heard the whispers of guardians gathering in the shadows, exploring the mysteries of this world and the worlds which surround us. We are all in search of truth. Sometimes we need to focus that search, focus that fire. And so we come together. Join us. Join the discussion. Welcome to Focused Fire Chat. Welcome to Focus Fire Chat, recorded live on October 25th, 2019, over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat. As always, I want to give a big shout out to our live chat here with us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us once again. This week's episodes are going to be focused around exploring the Inquisition of the Damned lore book. This particular episode will serve as what we have come to call the intro session of the week's exploration. Before we go any further, however, let's run through a quick introduction of who all we have with us on the show. As always, this is your host, Blue Crew 86.
And this is the OSHA representative contacting Ikora Ray, telling her that her workers really need to put on some goggles.
Eye goggles.
Eye goggles. Just
No
put on
kidding.
some goggles. Like, there
Listen,
is so much wrong with what's
They
going
have been
on
doing
there.
that for 5 years now, and they are fine.
There's no like
They're not guardians.
tethers. Yeah, exactly. There's no
They can't be
tethers.
resurrected.
They're
There's
on-
no
gotta be careful.
tethers.
like there's nothing holding them to these beams. They're on like I-beams out there. Like, I
No
got
safety
this.
harnesses.
Right?
Did,
Like,
did
there's
they
some
just rely on some titan to skate down, grab them, and drop them off safely? Or a warlock, better yet?
Maybe. I don't know. It's just
'Cause we can
oh,
floof.
gosh.
Titans plummet after they break their falls for 2 seconds.
That's true. That's true. But no, this is Green-Eyed Music Lover telling Ikora that she needs to fix that.
And last but
Let's get on
definitely
that.
not least, in the hot seat as guest co-host, we have our good friend Admiral Breezy. Breezy, how are you doing?
I'm doing wonderfully talking to you, chaps.
Yes.
It's a good night indeed.
Absolutely.
So, usual introductory question, where can we find you out on the internet?
First and foremost is my Twitter. My Twitter handle is @theupsexy, exactly as it sounds. THEUPSEXY. I made that a handle when I thought I was funny about a decade ago, and it's stayed ever since. Otherwise, you can find me actually on YouTube. I have a 7-subscriber YouTube channel that has no attention, but you can also find me on the Halo Collective YouTube channel. I contribute to content on there on occasion, so those are the best places to get in touch with me. And if you're a
Nice.
Halo fan, sorry to say, but we're kind of not doing stuff on that channel because we're waiting for Halo Infinite.
Right.
But we got a new
right.
project coming up soon, so we'll keep our gaming
Mm.
interests alive. Looking forward
Nice.
to that come December or so.
Perfect.
Speaking of that, is it super secret, or can you go into the new project that you guys are working on, or like tease it a little bit for us?
I don't know if there are any Halo Collective fans here. We have 4,000 subscribers, so I'm just gonna tease it. We're gonna be launching a general gaming channel come I think December, so that we can contribute games that aren't just Halo, because we're playing a lot of different stuff. Only one of our members actually plays Halo 5 consistently. I feel bad for the guy. I love him to death, but dude, Max, just let it go. Halo 5's dead. You don't need to reach max rank. It's okay.
But
okay,
you
I
do.
promise.
You do.
You got the Timmy helmet. Let it go.
Oh, okay. Well, if you got the... Okay, never mind. Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, it's like getting into Inheritor on Halo Reach and then going into Griffball and ruining everyone's day who's trying to get to Inheritor.
Mm-hmm.
Absolute.
Mm-hmm. Speaking
Anyways.
of absolute with Halo, Blue drags me in there to help
Hey, listen,
lower
Super
his
Fia...
rank so he has an easier. No, it's you and Ben. You and Ben drag me in there when it comes to ranking.
Oh,
because I
yeah,
am
yeah.
level 6.
Hey, listen.
in Halo.
If it works.
It's actually good to hear that other people play Halo still on the side. I got to get in there and do my 10 matches of Infection before October is up so I can get this Infection emblem or nameplate. Yeah, nameplate.
The nameplate.
MCC.
Yeah, I need to finish doing that one.
Honestly, as soon as Reach drops on MCC and it comes to PC, oh, dude, I'm going to play Destiny a whole lot less.
Hey,
Reach on PC is what I live for right now.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
But Reach was my favorite.
Reach? I want to say that ODST was my very first one, but then I played Reach after that. I went backwards.
It was a banger too in its own right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I know Green has a lot of fun questions.
I'm actually going to kind of deter from the normal question. I want to know what your thoughts are since you're a Halo guy. What are your thoughts on the TWAB this week when it comes to the new game type coming out with the, what is it called? Not Mayhem. It's
Momentum.
Momentum Control.
Mm-hmm. Where it's kind of like semi-SWAT like is what it sounds like.
Weapons are powered up, so I'm betting snipers are going to body one-shot kills. And if so, I need to do that for my Revoker.
Yeah. That would be awesome.
Got the headshots and medals. I just need to kill 250 people with snipers, and I just don't want to commit to sniping a Crucible.
You know, in certain game types, it's not too bad, especially if you're going into the non-competitive scene where you don't really see as many snipers or as many shotgunners, for that matter. You see a lot of more people doing experimental loadouts. Those are the playlists to get into. Rumble's not too bad with it if you can get a good spot in the map before people will come and mark you. Yeah. How did you get into lore, Breezy? Like, what was your initial? Was it Halo? Was it a different franchise? Was it Destiny? What was the hook for you to get interested in lore?
The hook. I want to say the hook was Halo.
Mm-hmm.
I've been a fan of Halo since 2010 when I actually played. I played Halo 1 on my friend's Xbox back in junior high a little bit, but I really got into it when a bunch of people in my 10th grade computer science class actually were able to Google the Halo trial and actually got the trial installed with Blood Gulch and the Silent Cartographer. So we were all just like 6-7 people in class were secretly playing on Blood Gulch. And I had never really been a PC gamer, especially with shooters, so I started at the bottom of the roster.
Mm-hmm.
And I was playing Halo in 10th grade, and then my sister got an Xbox 360, and like December 31st, 2009 at like 10:30 at night, I actually signed up for the trial of Xbox Live Gold and started playing Halo 3 online. And then 2011, I got my first job, was able to buy my own Xbox and Live membership, and the rest is history. Nice. But yeah, the hook, Halo, definitely. Halo was interesting. It was nice knowing about like background stories that were going on. And then Mass Effect was a bit more engaging in its lore with the Codex and just knowing about all the spatial relations before that had happened. And then it just soared into new heights when Destiny came out. The cryptic hidden lore in the background, the Grimoire cards. And I didn't even get into YouTubers like Bife until like a year and a half ago.
Nice.
And just exceptional content. The story is so well executed, even though it's not perfect. Like Grimoire cards, they could have put that in the game back in Destiny 1. That would have been a little better to explain the lore more closely to the game engine itself. But of course, we all love debating Hive Apocrypha.
Of course.
Everything about the Vex, who were the other 3 members of Kaver's fire team before they were erased from existence. Because I'm betting they had a 6-man fire team, but we just don't know about them in the records. Because the Oracle's deleted. Control-Alt-Delete, remove Guardians, // kind of thing,
Do you think they'll actually ever reveal that? I mean, now that we're kind of getting back into the Vex and everything.
But it would be cool because we reclaimed Praedyth. He was just a name and a gun. We're like, who's this Praedyth? And then it actually comes out in Taken King. We remember the story mission. Ikora sends us back into the Vault of Glass because we're getting that signal, and we actually hear this dead Guardian's voice, and we recover him from like eternal deletion from the memories of everyone you loved. anyone else you could have cared about. Even his ghost was found. Future War Cult headers. You take it to Lakshmi. She's like, this ghost has headers I would have needed to sign off on. I've never heard of this guardian. I've never seen this ghost. Well, that's because he was deleted and you wouldn't know any better. It's stuff like that the Vex are probably my second. I don't know if they're my favorite or second favorite topic of lore, but the Hive are just so freaking interesting with everything I've been reading lately. I have a newfound love for Hive, reading the Inquisition of the Damned, especially. So much fun, and I can't wait to talk about it more.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I bet this expansion itself, Shadowkeep and Season of the Undying, has just kind of been a bit of a heyday for you because you're getting all the stuff from the Hive.
I love Black Garden too.
Oh yeah, and I actually really enjoy the Vex Offensive. I know it's not everybody's kind of cup of tea, but being able to go in there and see the plants and the same plants that you see in some of the different lost sectors, by the way. I don't know if anybody has picked up on that. There's a lost sector that...
I haven't gotten through the lost sectors just yet. So.
Oh my gosh, Blue.
Hey, look, sure I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
Ones?
Slowly but surely. We'll get him through. But yeah, definitely. Last question, kind of my go-to. What class is your primary class to play?
Warlock. I knew from the E3 debut at like 2013 for Destiny that I'm like, yeah, Warlock seems like my cup of tea. Played it first, loved it, but I have one of each and I love switching back and forth. I'm actually on my Hunter as we speak.
Nice.
Working on her. But yeah, Warlock is definitely my main. Suits my personality. It just resonated from the first moment I saw it in action.
Nice. Is there a subclass you tend to gravitate towards more?
I used to roll Well of Radiance, but since it's been kind of kaput with the changes to its Luna faction, I've actually been I've run regular Dawnblade a fair amount. I most typically, I don't know, it's kind of a jumble.
Okay, that's fair enough. I mean, I think that Bungie recently has done a really good job of trying to incorporate other classes into the gameplay a bit more this last season, especially because Arcstrider was dead for so many months. As far as a hunter goes, you really never saw too many people running it in Crucible, or even unless they were running Liar's Handshake. But this last season with Vex Offensive, there's actually the triumph. If you're going for the seal, you have to get so many arc supers and melees and grenades, as well as void. So it's kind of bringing them out a little bit more, which is nice to see. Anyway, Blue, I'm going to toss it back to you in case we have any sort of special announcements.
No, just a general warning to everybody that as most people who listen to the show know, I mispronounce things. Apparently I mispronounced Puget. I don't know. It's some Pacific Northwest thing. Screwball was kind enough to help correct me, though he was also gentle enough that he said that a lot of people mispronounce it. So, but just a general PSA. If you've made it this far and haven't realized that I just mispronounce everything, I mispronounce everything. So
I think we all have things that are a little bit more challenging to mispronounce. What's the one that Dino always tries to correct us on?
I think Namki. Was that the one that you're talking about? Namchi. I'm pretty sure it's Namchi, but don't tell him that. I think, but no. So yeah, just a big thank you to Screwball, and then also we had someone who wrote in and let me know that one of our links on our website was pointed at the wrong episode. So thank you so much for that. And I try, but sometimes I do mess up. But yeah, so. Other than that, really, I don't really actually have much. We can run through housekeeping notes, and then I will toss it actually back over to you, Green, if you want to kind of go through just a cocktail knowledge conversation on the Inquisition of the Damned.
I actually have a community question this week, Blue.
Oh, you do? Okay.
I do.
Never mind. We're going to do community question. Then we'll do housekeeping notes.
Yep. So it was kind of a last minute thing, and is more of a in light of Inquisition of the Damned and kind of what you see partway through the cards. I asked if there was a pit fight This is more of a fun one. If there was a pit fight of major hive figures, who would come out on top? And I purposefully left out any of the major three. I left out Savathun, Xivu, and Oryx on purpose. And I listed Crota, Hashladoon, Omnigul, and Fogoth, which, granted, they're not the most powerful, obviously. Crota may be up there, and Crota ended up winning with 66%. No shocker there. Some of the responses were kind of amusing as far as people being like, Oryx, 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 Oryx. Did I mention Oryx? So my kind of throw to you guys is, if you could pick any hive to throw into a pit to fight each other, who would you think would come out on top? So I'm actually going to throw it to both you, Blue, and Breezy, on your guys' thoughts on this for this week's question.
So what are the
Out of the
qualifiers?
ones mentioned?
Any major hive figure, who would you think would come out on top in a pit fight?
Not
And
including the royal family.
You can include the royal family if you would like. I would just like for you to defend it a little bit as far as who you think would actually come out on top. And a lot of the arguments that I saw on Twitter had to do with the tithing line and who has the most tithing, which obviously would mean they're the more powerful one. But what were your guys' thoughts on that matter?
How much time does Savathun have to prepare her plan? It all hangs on that, if you ask me.
That's fair. I mean, you think about Hashladoon and what we're going to see in the book, and the sisters, Hashladoon, Bashurith, I can't even remember the other two at the moment, Kynox and Voyshire.
Yeah, there we go.
Think about those four and how they saw the uprising coming up. They were still able to kind of maneuver their way around it. So Savathun may need a bit of time. I don't know how wily that witch is. Blue, what do you think? Who do you think would be up on top?
Like, and this is a like straight up pit fight.
If you threw every hive major figure into a circular ring, and they could fight in any way, shape, or form that they want to, who do you think would come out on top?
I mean, the obvious answer is Oryx, simply because history, has kind of proven that to be the case. I mean, Xivu in a pit and like in a fisticuffs pit fight, I think Xivu would be probably a close second. Just simply because she's referred to as the god of war. And I mean,
her high court is everywhere she makes war.
Yeah, I mean,
and we have yet to see that in action. We know how Oryx conducted his battle in Taken King when he came, how he let people challenge him, how he let our 6-man fire team actually overtake him by his own logic, with some tweaking in the light, as Toland remarked, twisting the light against him instead of fighting him exactly in the sword logic way. But I want to see Xivu Arath more in person, and hopefully we can kill her in a raid someday. I'm not counting on seeing Savathun in a raid, because she pretty much knows that she could lose to us directly if we challenged her, in a raid fashion. She knows how susceptible Oryx was. So trickery's been her tool, of course. The Dreaming City, Riven, the Taken Queen, she's basically become in his name. Oh, I'm scared of that woman. I hope something leads us to her, though. It'd be awesome. Like if the pyramid artifact actually ended up leading us to her ascendant realm.
Oh gosh.
Just as hey, this pleases us. Go take your war to the queen of trickery, And then she just like, oh, darkness, that's not cool. Why are you doing this to me?
Right?
Like, that's the only way I could see us actually getting close to her. Because otherwise, she's not going to give us a shot at it. There's no reason to. She wants to bring her brother back.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. Getting into the actual physicality in the pit fight, Savathun would probably not be very good in a fight. But if she was able to manipulate others into accomplishing her goals in any way, shape, or form, that's how she works. She works as a secondary character in some respects that she will push somebody else to go do her bidding. Which brings me to a surprise contender in my mind. A character we haven't heard of since D1. If the character would function in very much so the same way that Savathun does, Teox might be somebody who
But-
could
Oh.
pull.
The
However-
mother. The
however-
traitor.
The
Mhm.
qualifier is you said Hive.
I did, and technically she's not part of the Hive, she's part of the Osmium Court.
Right. I mean,
But-
and I think the other thing is too, like, that would assume that Tau or Teox or whoever is going to, because I mean, like you kind of are tying it back into the Inquisition. Like you see with the siblings of the Swarm with Malkanth and Akrazil and Azavath, the twisting of logic that they go through to undermine the daughters of Crota. And so I don't know, like I still, I mean, like in a pit fight, I would argue that Oryx would be Oryx as we understood him prior to our severing of the tithing chain. Oryx would have done it because that was the entire point of the War Priest.
Right.
The War Priest was there as a stopgap to only allow those who could defeat the War Priest to pass. And, then that was the whole thing. And so when we did that, that was all because we undermined the flow of tithing. But in a straight pit fight, it would be really, I think it would really come down to the three siblings, as it always has. And
Perhaps, but if Teox has been able to survive this whole time, and granted, she's not tied to the worms.
But
You
she's also
mentioned that
not.
she's
She's
not-
also not a follower of the sword logic.
No, but does sword logic is not unique to necessarily the Hive. Other races.
Well,
in
no,
some
what I mean,
respects
sorry,
are
what I
able to
mean,
form it.
right. Sorry, what I mean is like, I just don't see her. I would see her actively resisting participation in a pit fight because that's not how she's going to defeat them. Like, she showed that with the Ammonites. She shared knowledge and she shared information with the intent to allow them to do the fighting.
She functions like Savathun. Like a
Yeah,
mother.
she fights by proxy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's interesting. Good.
Or-
Good. Go for it.
Makes me wonder what Teox's physiology is like to live as long as she has.
If
Well,
she's
she-
lived.
Yeah, and I mean, she's also been in a cryopod for a while too.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. I'm very excited to see more of her in the future, hopefully. It'd be interesting if she was within our grasp and
Fingers
even was an
crossed.
ally,
Mhm.
at least to fulfill some ends of survival. That's another way I could see a weakness for Savathun emerging, possibly, is through Teox actually being so desperate as to seek light bearers of the Traveler.
It would be definitely an interesting storyline to have to write or even perform or read, or whoever is actually going down that thought line.
Mm-hmm.
Destiny 3 DLC, calling it.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
All right, Blue. I think that should wrap up our kind of community discussion before we get into the main topic.
Cool. All right, so let's go through housekeeping notes, and then we'll go right back to green. Last week, we discussed Icdisis. If you're enjoying the show, please be sure to let us know by giving us a shout over on Twitter, leaving a comment on Podbean, or sending us a quick email at focusfirechat@gmail.com. Reviews or comments on where we can improve are always welcome. They let us know what we can do better to create a more enjoyable experience for everyone. To all who have sent feedback or left us a review, thank you. As many of you are aware, Focus Fire Chat is a community in which we offer the chance to dive into lore from within various titles and mediums, with a special focus on the Destiny universe. Every Friday, at about 10 p.m. Central, the podcast team gets together to stream a summary of the chosen topic for that week. The hope for this is to help encourage dives into aspects of game lore within both our Discord server and within the other communities we share the digital world with. If you're a fan of lore in all its various forms, be sure to also check out thelorenetwork.com, a central hub for content that covers a wide variety of different titles and mediums. Our full show notes for each week's topics will be posted here, so for the additional information or guest details, be sure to check out the site. Next week's topic is going to be a coverage of the extra lore topic for October, No Man's Sky. That being said, however, we still want to hear your thoughts about this week's topic. Be sure to weigh in over on Discord, and don't be shy in tagging any of the team in the conversation. We can't wait to read what your thoughts are. But for now, let's get back to the show.
All right. So, Inquisition of the Damned is a book that we received in Shadowkeep about, basically, it's a story about the Hidden Swarm in many respects and the Daughters of Crota. So, the Daughters of Crota and Omnigul, the nightmares that we're currently taking out every once in a while, whenever those nightmare strikes come up. We have 4 of them named. We have Hash Ladun, who's the one we take out during the strike. We have Bishurith, who we take out during the when we get the cryptoglyph. We have Velshire and Kynox, and I don't believe we've actually faced those 2 yet. Correct me if I'm...
I don't have record of their deaths, and I've looked for them.
Neither do I.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing them yet as far as us in-game defeating them, which would be interesting. So that means we still have 2 at large at the moment. But it is the story of those 4 siblings, as well as kind of the children of the swarm. That is Malkanth, Akaz, and okay, so Blue mentioned we are not going to pronounce things correctly. Hive names are jerky.
Much fun though.
Yeah, Akrazul.
Akrazul.
And Azarath. And then Zulmak, and then we had the Congregation and the Swarm. So those are kind of the major characters. Malkanth, Akrazul, and Azarath are definitely more prominent in the book than Zulmak necessarily. Zulmak is kind of the catalyst in many respects to the current champion. But I am going to ask Breezy here, how would you describe this book to somebody who may not have ever known anything about the Hive? Like, if you're going to describe the Hive and this book in particular, how would you do it?
This book was very interesting to me. I actually only really read the whole thing this week, but I would describe it as, first I would like ask them, do you know anything about the pecking order, the totem pole of the Hive generally at all? Have you heard about, orcs, this ties, yada yada. But this is basically a coup attempt to the Hive way of powering themselves up, essentially. That's how I would describe it. And these 3 siblings, the children of the swarm, are trying to contend with the sword logic, which is the way that life is dying unless you fight it, and you fight everything else to get on top of that. And I've never thought of them looking for another solution to power or living eternally or in eternal places until I read this book, and I had such a blast with it. I can't wait to dig into it more. But yeah, short version, this is basically 3 people trying to stage a coup on the rest of the Hive.
And you mentioned sword logic. Do you want to give a shot at kind of describing what sword logic is as far as the importance of it in the Hive, and how orcs and orcs in particular is a very big champion of it, and obviously all the Hive kind of follow this sword logic in general. But how would you describe sword logic to somebody?
Yeah, so imagine yourself as a human seeking a longer lifespan, and just as Oryx and his siblings did when they were Arash, Sathona, and Zivorath. Yes, they actually, to outlive their 10-year lifespan as the Krill, they sought ancient machines from washed up ancient worlds, because they had 11 moons, 31 moons around their planet. They actually take a deep dive into their planet with this needle-like ship, and they found one great Leviathan under the ocean far under the ocean that warned them to turn away. But at the core, surprisingly, they find pretty much dragons, not like mythical European dragons because they're shapeshifters, but these things allowed them, it kind of rewarded them for their seeking. And just imagine that you're going to take the advice of these wise ancient things to feed a parasite that will make you stronger as you feed it, and you have to stack up on the feeding pretty much eternally or it'll consume you. Kind of sounds satanic and devious as all heck, but it's a way to also, there was a revenge element. Arash and her siblings sought to kill a traitor in their family, essentially, and they were willing to do anything. Their commitment to their revenge, what they considered justice and true, was what led them down this path, and their worm covenant with these worms gave them the stepping stool to become something far, far greater, and they certainly have. The sword logic is that covenant manifest. The only way to feed your worm and grow and not die is to kill. And it's found in nature. They describe it beautifully. It's found in nature. All living things die. The death is the order of the universe. To face that down, you can't just be a simple organic creature. Carbon, hydrogen, all these other things. To be something more, you have to embrace something more. And these worms, I believe they were actually Ahamkara, these dragons that grant wishes, were they were the source of this worm covenant. And yeah, sounds like a great way, but again, they were committed to the cause.
Right. And the thing to keep in mind with this whole the worm god, worm pact, and everything like that, I wish we would have more clarification on whether or not they were quote unquote wish dragons or Ahamkara type creatures or related to them. We haven't gotten that yet. I don't believe. And so
Bife seems to think so.
I know Bife is
Sorry.
Yeah,
Chat's giving me grief because of a mispronunciation I made a long time ago. I referred to them as the work gods.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so we're talking in chat. We're talking in chat.
That's true.
The work gods, demonic Avon marketing plan. No pink car involved.
You know what, though? I mean, kind of a pyramid scheme. It's not too far off of how the tithing system works.
Destiny adds new meaning to the term pyramid scheme.
Right?
Oh.
Right?
Oh,
the
my
creepiest
gosh.
scheme. And the
Sorry, I wasn't laughing at the Bife comment. I was laughing at dancing and dissolute and screwball and chat.
To continue on a little bit, the three sisters, Zyro, Arash, and Zathona, they take on a new identity. They take on their new selves after the worm pact, right? They're taking on
a new gender in Arash's case.
Right. And
they're all addressed as sisters. And then Arash became Oryx and then was addressed as him as Taken King when Oryx, as we knew him, emerges. Anyways.
Xivu Arath would also technically
not necessarily. We don't know if knights are male or female.
Considering male. Okay.
I don't because we have I don't think there's ever been a clarification. Like most of the name knights that we do have are male, but there are a few knights that the gender, like it's just not clear. It's not that to say yes or no, but I have noticed that with the knights in particular, there does seem to be some disparity. And Dancing Veru is making the call out too that Xivu was continued to be referred to as she.
Okay. Good to know.
But I actually thought the same thing. But then when I was looking back over a couple of the other Ascendant Hive named figures, the ones that we do know are knights, they actually a lot of them are not called out. And so it's like, and there's really, I would actually defer to, I think it's Dark Angel who did the dive into Hive etymology.
Mhm.
As far as the naming conventions, for male female naming convention structures.
Nice. She does some really great work. NASA scientist too, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
But we talked about sword logic, and we are talking about the coup that takes place in this book. What would you do they ever actually, I'm trying to remember if they describe what their logic is. Or is it mainly that they're striving to not, is it the logic of the swarm? Are they striving to not be a part of the sword logic? What are we considering this to be?
So you're talking about Malakanth, the
Mm-hmm.
deceiver. They are
Mm-hmm.
actually seeking to undermine the understanding of sword logic. They
But do they ever
actually
name it?
no.
Trying to prove a lie.
They're trying to prove that sword logic is not all that there is. They aren't trying to prove a logic, they're trying to disprove sword logic. And they are trying to do that in order to quote unquote free the swarm from it's basically, I'm gonna get so much flack for doing this, but it's
this
basically
is what the Inquisition means too.
Right.
The word Inquisition is a reassessing, essentially, or questioning.
It's like
unlike the Spanish Inquisition, which was one, unexpected, and two,
it was always unexpected. No one expects the Spanish Inquisition. Ding!
Nobody expects the Inquisition.
Oh my gosh, love that skit.
Okay, I had to get that out of my system.
But the other thing too is that it is kind of a manifesto against the oligarchy of the royal family, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's actually where Malkanth and her sister and brother actually derive a lot of their hatred, or direct most of their hatred, is towards the congregation and the sisters of, or the daughters of Crota. If you, I think it's like the first couple books, it's like they are very, very much against the established royal family of Crota and Oryx, which is what makes the ending a little bit also really interesting for me. But yeah, I never took it as they're trying to establish a new logic. They're trying to disprove the existing slavery to the sword logic, because they see it as a form of it kind of feels like they see it as a form of enslavement, which it kind of is.
I mean, they're enslaved to the worms, and
yes,
on top of it too.
Well, and because of the tithing, because of the because of the tithing lines, the way that they're established, there's really no. I mean, it's basically a low named and a mid level, or a mid level marketing scheme. It's a pyramid scheme. It's basically someone at the bottom of the pyramid going, "Hang on a second." And they're fighting against the system,
and they're already trapped.
It's Rage Against the Machine, but in hive form.
That would be the best.
They already have the death metal. Ever. They already have the death metal.
I know. That's what I'm
killing
saying.
In the name of.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I cannot wait till we get to those.
Someone needs to get Grindhead Jim on this stat.
Right. Okay, so we have the first couple of cards. We have the idea of breaking free of this sword logic, breaking free of the logic that we're the hive are kind of locked into, and the plan coming together. Then they move into kind of, if I remember correctly, it goes to the sisters, and then it kind of goes back to the Malkanth and all of them, and the weird experiment that they do / Frankensteining that happens.
Yeah, and I have a couple interesting comments to make when we get there too, because there's a, I don't know, I see that there is there's an interesting parallel in the quote unquote abomination that Malkanth creates, and the quote unquote abominable science that Nokris is exiled for.
The death science, whatnot.
Well, it's just, to me, what I mean by that is that it's an interesting it's an interesting degree of hypocrisy, because the same thing that Nokris is getting in trouble for, the siblings were notorious for testing. Well, the same thing that Malkanth is referring to as forbidden is arguably what Savathun and even the Worm Gods did by creating an unmaking.
Okay. So, summarizing the book a little bit, we have Malkanth, Akrazul, Azarath, upset, frustrated, fighting, trying to figure out a different way out of the sword logic loop that they're stuck in. Then you see some of the sisters, Hashladun, Besharith, the Shire, and Kynox. Also, you see a mention of them also questioning or having reason to doubt the logic. Then we get to the character Zulmak, which is the champion of the pit. So the Hidden Swarm is just this massive hive, and they are pit fighting right now essentially to gain more power. And Zulmak is the champion and the one that they think that can actually do it as far as gaining the lead, essentially. You proven by might of arms in the pit itself. And we see his fight or their fight. I'm pretty sure he's considered a male in this. Then we see Malkanth, Akrazul, and Azarath go into the idea of changing, doing the unmaking themselves. And then we get to my favorite part, talking about the song.
Mine too.
Right?
So cool.
Mm-hmm.
Jinx.
So, right?
I was practically like squirming in my seat at how awesome it was, and I was terrified too, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, terrifying and amazing and interesting implications tied from this book to also a book that's being slowly revealed to us. All sorts of good stuff. The Unveiling, the Book of the Unveiling.
Right.
So, yeah, so the Song of Life, we learn kind of sort of more about the history of the Death Song and how that works through that. And towards the end, we kind of see the result of the coup or the terrible
climax.
Yeah, just everything falls apart, and the sisters, Hashladun, Bisharith, Bashire, and Kynox, basically
take advantage.
They just, yeah, as you do when you are devious. I would call them witchy women, but it's a little bit too on the head. Yeah.
And it does them good credit, too.
It does.
I love watching their scheme unfold.
Right?
And is it weird that I was actually kind of rooting for these guys?
Really? The rooting for Malkanth or rooting for Hashladun and them?
Malkanth, the one staging the coup, the ones trying to change things up. I'm just thinking, do this, pull this off. I want to see how you guys do this. I want to see what kind of challenges you bring to us in the next raid.
Man, that would be interesting, because the whole experiment / weird ritual that happens to put, is it Azaranth and Akrazul, or is it Akrazul and Asheranth? I can't remember which one's inside of which other. It's basically reverse Russian dolls. You're putting them inside of each other.
Was put into Akrazul.
Yeah.
Azavath is unmade, and Akrazul is embedded inside of Azavath. Azavath was the fledgling death singer, and Akrazul was actually a piece of collateral damage from the Taken War. His name, the Severed Knight, was actually because one of the Guardians cut off his arm.
Okay. Anyway, I don't have too much else when it comes to like doing a super introduction of this, because everything else I want to talk about is going to be way more in depth. Do we have anything else that we would want to talk about to give people a background knowledge of what's going on in this book if they have no former knowledge? Because we've talked about the siblings, we talked about like Oryx and Savathun and Xivu and sword logic. We've talked about Crota's daughters, talked a little bit about the actual story in the book. Is there anything we want to do to kind of wrap
a
this
little
guy
bit more
up?
on the chain of command for
Yeah, sure.
the sword logic. I think it's good to note, excuse me, I can English, I promise. Good to note that the way the hive grow is by killing one another typically, or feeding on tribute. Basically, it's organic, like consumption of protein, things that make you grow and muscle mass and all that. And, you can't just put on the weight. You have to exercise so that it's muscle. They do that by feasting typically upon light and other interesting energy sources that sustain them. And they also get that strength of their worm feeding by contending with one another. They claw over the tops of each other to grow. It's what Oryx did. It's what Crota did to become as great as he was. And eventually, if you become great enough, your power can extend into a realm separate from typical physical reality, where if you die in it, in our world, as Crota was vanquished once upon a time, he had an ascendant realm to fall back to that you can't reach with a starship or conventional means. So we passed through the keyhole into his realm deep beneath the hellmouth of the moon, and we contended with him according to the sword logic in his own domain, somewhere where his complete soul was vulnerable to destruction, which is what happened in the second raid of Destiny 1, Crota's End. So basically, I think I covered most of that pretty well. You guys have anything to add to the sword logic chain in general?
Not to the sword logic change. The other thing that was noticeable to me was the the repeated reference to as above, so below.
It's backwards.
Is it so or as below, so
as
above?
below, so above.
Right.
Which I
As
find
above and below.
incredibly interesting.
Right. Do you think that would be something to discuss here, or do you think we should do that in the advanced episode?
I think we should talk about it more in an advanced episode because it has to do with the concept of
sacred geometry and hermeticism, mostly.
Hermeticism, just the idea of having something being focused on in one location would affect the larger scale is what it normally is, kind of thing.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was just going to say, because I know that was a rather large component of the structure, especially. So,
especially after the first 4 or 5 books, where it just intros each of the main players of the coup and their ramblings, what they detest, and as above, as below. Basic version is the as above is the people up in the Scarlet Keep, the Barad-dûr-looking tower from Lord of the Rings, and that's where Hashladun is, and she kind of looks down in condescension on the pit and those who are below her. And we can, delve into the advanced, but that's what I took it as on the base level in my first read through.
Yeah, cool. Yep.
Literal elevation.
Yeah, for sure. Blue.
All right. So let's do a quick round of shout outs for the intros, and then we'll get into the advanced session. So Breezy, what shout outs do you have for us for the intro session?
Like Destiny community or anyone?
Anyone.
I don't think I'd be here in this position today if it weren't for the Halo Collective YouTube channel that got me into, doing content within the community, especially on YouTube. And I'm grateful to them for also being good friends. They're the only Facebook chat bubble I'm consistently on with throughout the day. They're pretty much my closest friends, and shout outs to the Halo Collective for them. Go subscribe to them on YouTube if you can, because we could use a little bit of boost for our subscriber count. And keep an eye out for our general gaming channel in December. We're definitely looking forward to seeing how that launches, but all my thanks to them, and of course the inspiration of getting into lore itself. I'm actually delving more into lore because of people like My Name is By Bearded Grizzly, our resident lore masters in this Destiny community. Thanks to all the artists and content creators who also helped me be inspired to do art. I'm working on art on my laptop like every day now before I get on my work shift. I've had a hard time committing to art projects, and this year is the first year I've actually gotten a big art project done because everything else just fell through. So those are my shout outs. Halo Collective on Twitter at Halo_Collective, and all of our partners and friends there, and of course on YouTube.
Cool.
Cool.
Awesome.
Green, what about you?
My shout out is mainly a big thank you to you, Breezy, for coming on with us and for being like really just an awesome, knowledgeable guest. It's really nice to be able to have somebody who can talk as in depth about it, which we're going to see in the advanced episode. Absolutely, for sure. I'm just excited to have you on here. So thank you for joining us on this podcast.
I'm very grateful to be on here, and thank you very much.
Yeah. Blue?
I think you kind of covered it. So, as usual, goodbye. With that, we'll begin to wrap the chat up. Thank you again to those over on Twitch for coming to spend your evening with us. If you'd like to join us for the live streaming of the episodes, please be sure to give us a follow over on twitch.tv/FocusedFireChat. Links to all our episode archives can be found at www.thelorenetwork.com. Please be sure to email us at focusedfirechat@gmail.com with any comments and or questions for the team concerning the podcast, and let us know how we're doing by giving us some feedback and a rating over on iTunes as well. So until next time, focus your fire and may your light shine bright.